Hello and welcome to The Flip Side. We've got every Baysider's favorite, Mark Clark from Vancouver, Canada.
Hello,
Village
Mr. Curt.
Church. Mark, I almost feel like you're one of our staff members, man. You're on the Wednesday night Bible study. You spoke at Thrive.
I love it. I mean, you're such a Bible-focused group of people saying, let's do Bible. I'm like, all right, I'm in.
And theology, beloved.
Yeah.
We're kind of similar. So right now, I just say unto ye, you are officially a part of the Bayside family.
Oh, awesome, great.
I sprinkle you with Bayside water.
You guys are my favorite.
Maybe that.
Yeah, second favorite.
And so let me explain, because some of you are watching this on the Thrive Churches side, and you're going, what is this format? This is the Thrive Leadership Interview. We do a lot of these, especially in and around events like Thrive Conference. Now, a bunch of you watching this, and you're Flipsiders. You want to dive deeper into the weekend content of Bayside Church, and you're like going, is this the flip side, or is this Thrive Leadership? The answer is yes.
Yes.
We're doing a little smash up here.
Yep.
The format of Flipside is 3 questions. We got no coffee for you.
Love it. Okay, well,
because we're actually recording this at a time where I cannot drink caffeine.
Oh.
But Taylor's still here. Taylor's still up. Tay, are you there?
Are you fasting from caffeine? Okay.
Yes. So
There
he's
you
going to
go.
hold us to the same format.
Okay.
We're going to do
Love
3
it.
questions. I'm going to ask the questions instead of Tay this time because I'm mostly just going to let you speak, Mark. And here we go. The Flipside Thrive Leadership Smash Up of Glory. Question number 1. You're one of my favorite communicators.
Oh, thank you.
And I mean that sincerely. I don't listen to communicators. I don't particularly like their style. It's very painful for me.
Right.
I listen to you all the time, Mark. I love what you do.
Good to hear.
What I love what you do is you are a guy that wants to fight for exegesis. You're a guy that wants to say, I'm not bringing my bias to this text. I'm going to say the dangerous thing if the dangerous thing is what the text means.
Right.
I love your commitment to that. And I love the fact that you do it in a way, it's super challenging, but at the end of the day, I go, oh, he's for me. That guy's for me. When you call me a disaster, I know you love me. In fact, when I went to your church, I'm preaching away and I'm like, okay, I know that some of you are going to miss this, so I'm going to do it. You're a disaster. I called them all a disaster. But I'm the chief disaster among you.
Then they got comfortable and they're like, okay,
yeah, exactly.
Good. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, good.
So, got COVID, we've got race, we've got political tension, we've got cultural chaos.
Yeah.
What are you preaching from the Bible to your folks in response to all this? What are you guys in now?
Yeah, it's a great question. We did, when COVID hit, we in March, so we're in Canada, so we haven't gathered as a church since COVID happened last March. So I was just like praying. I'm like, Lord, what should we do here? And he just gave me 1 Peter. So, but it was specifically 1 Peter 1. So, he's like, okay, so just preach to your people through 1 Peter 1 because they need to hear. And it was very clear. It was like people in the fire was the concept. And it was like, this is going to be one of the first times in my generation. It is the first time in my generation, but that something like this or this specifically has happened globally where, like, we didn't have a World War II.
Right.
We didn't have a Vietnam.
Right.
I say we, but
I haven't.
I'm
not that old.
Kidding. So
I'm not that old.
So we didn't have that. And this is our first kind of collectivist drama.
Right.
And it's like, what do we need to hear? And it was 1 Peter, like, look, suffering's going to happen. The squeeze is going to take place. And when the squeeze takes place, when the fire happens, what is it meant to do? It's meant to refine you. It's not meant to kill you if you're in Christ. And I would bring them this idea that I talk about often. I'm going to maybe share it at Thrive tomorrow, where, the prosperity gospel tells you that believe in Jesus and he's going to make you healthy. He's going to protect you and all things. And what I give this story that I was preaching to our people one day where I was flying to Australia that night, actually, 16-hour flight over the Pacific. And I looked at them and I said, let me tell you something. The gospel doesn't tell you that I'm not going to die tonight flying. I got 16 hours over the Pacific. This thing could crash and burn. The gospel doesn't mean that I'm not going to die. The gospel means that I'm safe and dying. That's a different worldview than naturalism, certainly, which is, man, dying is the worst thing that could happen to you, right? So suffering it has no place for suffering. It has no place for anything. It's like, get ahead in life, kill everybody around you to survive and thrive and do your thing. And it's like, man, I felt like my people needed to be saved almost from that naturalist worldview, but also the worldview that said, hey, I'm a believer. Why am I sitting in my home, isolated and alone? The economy's suffering. I'm suffering. I thought God was in control. Ergo, this shouldn't be happening. And it's like, I'm not sure First Peter would agree.
Right.
Suffering, he literally says, is the will of God. Because, Curt, I mean, you know, we have a cruciform faith. We follow a guy who, the center of the whole thing is a guy suffering. It's not a guy doing well. You know, it's a guy going through the fire. And then we somehow detach that. And we go, okay, that was nice for him. Now good things for me, you know, whatever. I shared this little last week. I was like, somehow we have a theology. You remember the song, the old worship song, he gives and takes away.
Yeah.
And so we don't sing that song anymore because it's
everyone who remembers that song also remembers Vietnam, by the way.
Yes.
So.
Oh, you're still back there.
Yeah.
So it was like, I'm like, you know, part of our theology, of course, that's a quote right from Job chapter 1, where all these things, terrible things happen. It's like, hey, I'm going to worship the Lord. He gives and takes away. And we tend to not really believe that theology. We don't, because we don't go, hey, God's actually sovereign over death. We go, we'd rather say he gives and gives some more.
Sometimes he waits to give.
And then he gives a little bit. Yeah. And it's like, we don't have a theology that goes, no, he takes away stuff.
Yeah.
And so anyway, a long answer to what do you say to your people? We did First Peter.
Go First Peter. So you know, I had some friends when I was in college that went deep into the Word Faith movement, and they're quoting all the guys, and my tongue has got power, and I'm going to manifest it, and I'm a magical Christian because of what I say. And I can remember sitting down with this one guy, and a guy I loved, and I don't want to be. I'm not the sort of theological critic that wants to mock people that have got caught in an error.
Sure.
Because people get caught in error for a reason, and I want to have grace for that. But I said to him, I said, listen, I could come up with a top 10 statements from the Bible that could never be preached in a Word Faith church.
Right. Yeah. It's interesting.
I can come up with a series, and there's a part of the Bible you can't touch. And I'll start with, join me in my suffering, quote unquote, the Apostle Paul.
Right.
And then you go right to First Peter, and then you go to the Garden of Gethsemane. It is not one of the most creative, beautiful things in the world is how you could take the most suffering act of laying down your life for pain and say the biggest point out of that is you're going to be wealthy and healthy all the time.
Yeah. Well,
that's like a mental circle that's Nadia Comaneci. Okay, there I got CP. That's my Vietnam era. I am an old guy.
That's good.
Oh, Tay's getting mad. He's getting. Is that 7 minutes? Okay, let's go to the next question. Who are you learning? Who are you learning from? He keeps me accountable. Who are you learning from right now?
Curt Harlow.
Oh, stop it. This is why we have Mark at Bayside quite a bit, actually.
I am learning from. Well, I mean, I was just talking to Ray an hour ago. I'm always learning from him. I mean, he's like that father figure to all of us in the sense of ministry. It's like, give me wisdom, speak to me. From a different angle, I'm learning from Adam Grant right now. Do you know Adam Grant? He's like a psychologist at Wharton School of Business. Anyway, he's got a bunch of books, kind of like a Gladwell. Him and Gladwell are friends.
Right.
And everything's kind of social psychology.
Right.
Anyway, he wrote a book called Think Again, and how to benefit from knowing what you don't know. And it's kind of this whole. I'm trying to look at everything. It's kind of like a Moneyball philosophy. Like, what if you looked at everything and you didn't, sometimes we will believe something in the face of data. And I mean, this could take us down a very interesting rabbit hole, but we believe stuff in the face of data to the contrary. And we trade that because it feels good to continue to believe even in the face of data, what I already believe.
Right.
So we either just take in data that we like, and of course that's easy from a social media perspective. It's just fed to us, through algorithms and whatever. But it's also just in life. Like someone will just come up and go, hey, blah, 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 blah. And you'll be like, yeah, no, I don't. You're already like, I don't like it. Instead of just listening.
Yes.
What are they saying? Is what they're saying really true? I'll give you a crazy example.
Okay.
what if this, and this is a thought experiment, so this is not actually the data. I'm not actually giving you some don't put in your comments, that's not true. I'm telling you it's probably not true, okay?
So, 2020, we got to explain everything.
Yeah, it's 14 hours of just prelude or whatever, prologue. So let's thought experiment. What if the data came out for depression and anxiety in 2020, and it was that all the data says that those things actually dropped during COVID.
Yeah, we got mentally more healthy.
Right.
Right.
Would we, because we love the narrative that we're all messed up because of COVID.
Right.
We all, everyone's dealing with mental health and there's all these problems and issues, which is, again, all true.
Probably true. Yeah.
Okay, probably true. But if the data came out and I went, actually, people who were suffering depression, rather liked being at home. They saw more of their family. They didn't feel the stress and pressure of making money to vacation and the job. They could just work from home and mental health went up. Would we be willing to take that data and go, huh? Or would we go, no, that's not true. COVID sucks. Let's get out of our homes and, whatever. Right. So it's like, think again. Are we willing? Anyway, he's one of the guys I'm learning from right now and I try to apply it to leadership and theology. It's like, what I don't, like we do. Not eisegesis, exegesis. Let me not bring to the text. Let the text give me the data, and then let me shape my thinking and life around what it's doing, rather than just accepting stuff I already like.
I'm probably getting this wrong. Is it's a similar concept to intellectual dissonance, where we hold two beliefs that can't agree with each other. My belief, Jesus is Lord. I'm breaking 4 of the 10 commandments because I don't really think they apply to me. But he's the Lord of my life. And all of us have a level of intellectual dissonance.
Yes.
And when a fact comes in and exposes it, I'm a hypocrite intellectually. I like both these ideas, so I'm holding both of these ideas, and one of them is not tenable against the other. It's often our ego will not let us resolve that, even though it'd be beneficial to us.
Yes, it's psychologically a fascinating world, because we do things psychologically for survival and flourishing and so that we feel good. And yet you bump up against texts. I remember reading this text in Luke. I was preaching through it years ago. And Jesus says this crazy thing. He goes, when you have a dinner, we do not preach this, and we do not put this on our fridges. When you have a dinner, don't invite your friends. Go get the homeless random dude out on the street that you don't know and make sure you bring him in. Don't invite all the people you normally invite. That is not my life.
Yes.
And it's not yours. I mean, you're a hospital. You love doing hospitality. We sit in your backyard. You bring your people you love, people you're pouring into. Not just some random dude you drive by and point at the local pharmacy. But Jesus said it. So I'm like, hey, how do I take this new information and fit it into my life? It's messing with me. I'd rather just bury it and move on with the way I do things.
Yes.
So anyway, that's one of the processes I'm going through right now, is how I psychologically
give me the author. Give me the author.
Adam Grant, and the book's called Think Again.
By the way, while we're on the topic of authors, let me do a shameless plug that you did not ask for that I want to do, because I'm an apologetics guy and I love apologetics. I've read every single apologetics, especially the stuff that's meant for church folks out there. I love the problem of Jesus. I love it as a follow-up to problem of God. I've said this off camera. I love the fact, I love the angle of it. This is a problem that cannot be ignored. In a lot of ways, your approach here has been for the skeptic or the person that is wrestling to make their faith stronger, of going, this is a problem.
Yeah.
This is a problem. What he said, what he did, it's expanding on the whole C.S. Lewis, liar, lunatic, and Lord, but in so many other ways. The text is a problem. What they wrote about him is a problem.
Yeah.
What he actually did is a problem. How he talked, the stories he used, it's a problem. And you're trying to ignore the problem, and I guess you'll be way better off if you don't ignore it. So can I just ask, how's the book doing? And I don't know, what do you want to say about this book, Mark?
Well, I don't know.
You see, I'm a pro interviewer.
Yeah.
And so,
well, Larry King, no, I don't know how the book's doing because I don't know.
Did Aaron read the book?
I guess I don't ask. I don't get reports. I write.
That's probably smart.
I write the.
Like if I wrote a book, right. I'd go. If Kelly read it, I'd be really pumped. I'd be really pumped.
It seems to be doing better than just my wife reading. Yes, we seem to get a lot of stories in about pretty cool things. It's got 5-star reviews on Amazon, all that. So people seem to be commenting and saying the book's helping them a ton, and that's it's crazy. That's what you want. The book is for believers and skeptics. For the believer, it's like, hey, can you be in awe of Jesus and see him clearly? For the skeptic, can I convince you that he's worth following? And it's just kind of this all these different worlds, from academia to, what are the gospels and how do the parables work and how do the miracles work and what is discipleship, and everything I've thought about Jesus for 20 years thrown into one volume, and go, hopefully this is helpful for everyone. So
it's great.
Yeah.
Read it for the criterium of embarrassment. It's right in the first 25% of the book alone. All the criteriums are good. The criterium of embarrassment, I love it. And it's funny how once you start counting the amount of those there are legitimately, you start going, this is the worst way to write this story ever.
Right. Yeah. We were doing the Bible study today, and there was that verse, Jesus could not do a miracle there. And I'm like, yeah, don't put that in there.
Yeah, the PR guy's
just
against
delete
that one.
Why is that in there? Because it's just what happened. It's that Mark's not, going to take something out just because it's going to be hard to explain later. He keeps it in, and that's why scholars go, okay, Gospels are legit. So.
All right. One of the sad things about 2020, Tay, we're moving on? Yeah. Okay. We're past 7 minutes there. Okay. One of the sad things about 2020 is how bifurcated the church has become. Some churches got very political in one way. Some churches got very political another way. Some churches were paralyzed. Some church plants were so divided that they quit. A lot of quit. A tremendous amount of disruption to get people to stop going to church. And a tremendous increase in online content. I don't know if it's online church has really increased. And there's no disruption bringing us back together. You guys are in the throes of it still in Canada because unlike the county we live in, it's about 80% vaccinated. You guys are having a hard time getting your hands on vaccines. There's variants. Pastor Mark, speak to the whole church, not just Village Church, but if you could speak to your brothers and sisters in Christ, what is this moment and what would you say to them?
I think we got to try to have a long-term perspective on all this. We get caught in these moments of we can only see, the 5 feet in front of our face. And, you meet with people and they're like, this is the end of the world. And I'm like, what do you mean? And they're like, well, it's COVID. It's the end of the world. Don't you know it's in the Bible? It's the end times. And I'm like, what? What are you talking about? And you realize, you weren't around for the 80s when it was the end of the world for sure in the 80s.
Yes.
And then you weren't around in the 70s when it was definitely the end of the world because the late great Planet Earth told everybody.
Yes, we even knew who the characters were.
Right. And then, you weren't around during the Reformation, World War II. You weren't around for World War II.
Yes.
When 60 million people died, and there was 6 million of them. And World War I, Spanish flu. You weren't around for any of that. So you and your house.
The great disappointment in the 1840s, literally, was the entire Christian church going, it's the end of the world, sell everything and go up to the top of a mountain in Jerusalem. And
they're still there.
And we still have waiting. 3 or 4 different denominations that came out of that great disappointment.
Actually, I heard there was a whole clump of them came to Sacramento.
100%.
So,
no comment.
So there's no historical perspective, and that's hurting us because then people become ideologues. And they grab onto this moment and they play with this narrative and they get everyone all riled up. And it's extremism, and it feels really good because it tickles you. And again, coming back to the psychology, but it's not true. It's not real. I mean, this is a terrible moment, and people are dying, and people are isolated. And I haven't visited my grandfather. He's 99 years old. He's sitting in a thing for a year and a half. I can't see. He hasn't seen and touched anyone. I mean, this is terrible. But if you have no historical perspective, you don't understand that the church has always seen signs and gone, this is the end of the world. And I mean, I can't make a call on this. Jesus could come back before the end of this podcast. Some of you are hoping he will. But it's like, man, this could go on for another 10,000 years, guys. This is one moment. This is, what's the call? It's not to get all riled up in one particular moment. It's about the long game of the faithfulness to the end, having a perspective that goes, like, I meet with people and I'm like, we're pastors. We've studied these things in pretty intense ways. I took Greek for 3 years. I read and they talk to me like I'm an idiot. I meet with people. They're like, come on, Mark, COVID's in Revelation 18, verse 5.
Did you see how orange the moon? What? Did you see how orange the moon was last week, Pastor Mark?
Yeah, and it's like, guys, this literally has nothing to do with anything. What did this? You're quoting Ezekiel. That's Israel and Babylon. What are we talking about? This isn't, America in 2021 or whatever. So you're like, okay, everyone, take a deep breath. This is not the first time the church has, and let's stay faithful to the end. Let's be the long-term people. So anyway, my word to the church would be, let's be those people. Let's have this is a marathon, not a sprint. And let's be Bible people, even when the culture starts abandoning the Bible, or people start using the Bible in ways that it wasn't necessary. Let's continue to be Bible people and not just cultural people. I think that's what's going to get us, to the end faithful, to the last day, which is the point. We got to get to the last day.
Very, very good.
Right?
Yes,
Not the first. Any moron can get married. I pointed to you, but I meant to do both of us. Any morons can get married.
My wife is saying amen.
It's not hard to get married on the first day. It's not hard. We all dress up. The question is the last day of your marriage. Were you faithful? Did you, are you flourishing? That's the call to the church right now. Let's not get all steamed up about one moment. Let's show the world we're faithful to Jesus in the midst of suffering, and we're not the people of anxiety. We're the people defined by the guy who said, don't be anxious, chill, the Father's in charge.
Yes.
And we're all running around screaming bloody murder and chicken with the head cut off, whatever the metaphor is. Let's be the people. Let's be salt and light
back now. To your original answer, which is the gospel is that if it is the worst day ever, that ushers in our best day ever.
Right.
So we don't have to be panicked. We can be the people of the peace.
That's right.
I think it's interesting what you said about it. I do think it is part of titillation. It's part of handling our modern malaise, boredom, and does this life mean something?
Right. It makes you feel.
Yes, it makes you feel. And the truth of the matter is, you got to go get that adrenaline boost from a healthy place, which is worship and scripture and fellowship, and not headlines.
Yeah. I agree with you.
I love it. Go read a history book and realize. Someone said to me, Mark, they said, I can't believe how much is falling apart. And I said, it's the opposite for me. I can't believe how much we held things together. I can't believe how much function is left.
Right. The kingdom of God is coming.
Yeah.
Our job is to pray the kingdom, Lord, bring your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Do you know, okay, let's come back to our think again thing. As much as it feels like this moment, and again, I don't know about the comment. Are the comments open on this thing? Do people get to comment?
For you, as a standing order at Bayside, for you and Chris Brown, we always shut them off.
Yeah. So you could go look at the data of this, but here, let's do another thought experiment. There are people who say we are living in the absolute safest, flourishing. There's more education. There's more health around the world.
Less starvation.
Globally. There's less mass shootings. There's less, this is crazy. The data actually tells a different story than we feel. We feel like the world's never been worse, and the data says the world's never been better. It's like...
The leading cause of death is heart disease and diabetes, which means we're overeating.
Right. And around the world, you look macro, you look at the data, the hospitals, the life, the education, the things that are going, people are living longer, people are living better. When I grew up, I think I went on one plane before I got married. I was 13 years old. I went down to Florida. I grew up in Ontario. We went to Florida to Disney World one time. Then I got married and got on a plane and went on my honeymoon. I was 23 years old. You know how many planes my kids have been on?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Buddy, my kids have been on more planes. They're first class. They got the special
Your
card.
kids and my kids are on a plane right now while we're working.
On a plane right
somewhere.
now. They're helping engineer this podcast right now. I mean, we're living in such an interesting time like that. This is a different world.
Yep.
And I guess what I'm trying to say is, let's not lose the beauty in the midst of the stuff, the fog, which I get it. There's an ideological fog and there's all these cultural things that are going on in the cultural. Let's not lose the kingdom's coming. Like, Jesus is healing and saving, and the Spirit's moving, and people are getting healed, and people are coming to Christ by the thousands every day around the world. Like, the Bible's being preached, the gospel's going for this. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Amazing things are happening.
Yep. In the name of Jesus. Hey, everyone, this has been The Flip Side and the Thrive Leadership Podcast, smashed up of glory with our favorite Mark Clark. By the way, Wednesdays, we do a thing called the Bible study. We're going through the entire book of Mark. We already went through the entire book of Galatians. Mark helped us with that. Go to Bayside Church YouTube, subscribe, and check out. I would start from the beginning if you're a newbie. Just go to that Galatians one, man. It is amazing what you're going to learn about the foundations of our faith there. Or join us. What we're doing on the weekends right now as we're recording this is the book of Mark with Mark. And then you're going to see interviews with Chris Brown there. You're going to see a lot of our weekend messages there. And you're going to see a lot of tons of stuff there. From there, it's not difficult to find the Thrive side. Great content. Please like, share, subscribe. Thank you so much, Mark.
Thank you for
joining us.
Thanks, guys.
For another Flip Side.